What's going on, y'all? Today is Sunday, June the 9th, and I am down in the shop. Sunday morning right now. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and we've been going. Well, we haven't been going. I've been up this morning trying to get some things done around the house outside while it was cool. So, been up since about 5:30 this morning, and for these hotter days, it's better to get up and get something done in the morning before it gets hot. So we've been busy. We haven't been too busy on the Hound Dog chassis that we're building, number 5. We've done a little bit, and I'll show y'all that. And that's what we're going to work on today for a little while. We can't do too much as we are waiting on metal for the firewall and floor pan. So it should be here first of the week, and when it comes in, then we can do the firewall and floor pan and get that knocked out. And then of course, once we get all that knocked out, y'all know we go ahead and do the door bars and stuff last. So we'll do the windshield bars last and whatnot, and then that way all that can be welded after the floor pan and stuff is in it, and it's easier to get in there and weld. Excuse me. But we've got a few more bars in it since the last video. And we've done a lot of work on our personal car, and I'll go over that here in just a second, and kind of get an idea where we're headed with it. So hopefully we've got it far enough now to we can make some forward progress. Get closer to the racetrack. Pops and I have really been putting in the work in the shop the past few days, in the evenings and everything. So yesterday was a good day. We got a lot done yesterday, but we got a lot done last week in the evenings over the past week. So y'all hang out with us. We're gonna build a factory stock. Alrighty, so on the Hound Dog chassis, I think since the last video, we have put in our 1.25" bars here, and we put in those. They're control arm mount braces, I guess you could call them. We just tie in the rear control arm mount on the cross member to the frame. So we got those in. And what we're going to work on today is we've got to swap our die in our bender and put up our 1.5" die back in. And then we're going to work on the rear clip today. Pops got us some plate and cut. He worked on cutting the frame out for us. And of course, y'all know we box it with 1/8" steel. That's 1/8" plate he cut to go in the end right here. And then we'll plate that with 1/8". And then of course the firewall and floor pan tie into it there. And then of course the pan sits against it and goes over to the drive shaft loop. If you've watched us do that before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, stay tuned, because in the next few days we'll be doing that. So we would have had, I don't know if we had this built in the last video. I'll have to go back and check, but if we didn't, front hoop is built. We would have had and put these 1" braces on the other day, our tabs on with the bolts, where all that's bolt on and removable. So what we're gonna do is, y'all know we do our rear clip off of the frame with 1.5", and then we make like a square back here. And then we have our top bars that come back and they 90 down into that. So, and we have bars that tie that together that the fuel cell cage will sit on and clamp to. So we're gonna work on that today. But we've made a lot of progress on the other side of the shop. So I'm gonna get up here where I can turn the camera around and y'all can see. Well, there she is. It's back to where we left off before we decided to cut the factory firewall out and do the fab firewall. For those that don't know, this was a factory firewall, factory floor pan car when we built it. When the rules changed over the winter, that's when we were able to build them like this, put a mid plate in them, and go to the fab firewall and floor pan. The headers that we like to run, we've talked about them before. I ain't gonna go into that, but the headers that we like to race, they make it easier for starter, oil filter, all that good stuff. They wouldn't fit with a factory firewall, so we cut our firewall out. The rule is you can be 12 inches from the back of the block to the firewall, and then your dash has to be 24 inch. So we cut our firewall out and we moved it back. We took advantage of that rule. And actually, before, the stock firewall actually came up right in here, I believe. So this is 24, and we were actually, I guess you could call it illegal, because our dash was longer because it came up to the factory firewall. I don't know how much would have been said, because we're not closed in, back here. So the cockpit is open from frame rail to frame rail. They can just look over in here and see that's factory floor pan. Of course, we put 18 gauge in the bottom over here because it had a lot of rust, and we leave holes in it for washout. So when you're washing the mud out, it'll go out. So anyway, Pops and I worked on, in the evenings last week, we worked on getting all the sheet metal back on. Now, it isn't completely finished. As you can tell right here, this is dropped down a little bit. This seam under here is not pot riveted. We've got to reach up under the dash and put pot rivets in this seam. We'll pull that up flush and clamp it while we drill it. And then there's more pot rivets we need to put right through here on the dash. We've got them down through there holding our little piece there. There'll be a piece of Lexan on that. So we went ahead and got all of this put back on. And we have one piece over here that I forgot we cut when we took it out. We cut this piece to get it out because it was a pain in the butt when we made it to get it in there. So it had a little rip right here. So we just decided to reuse that piece, and then we put a patch panel over it. So, I mean, it's not going to be seen. It's serving a purpose. So it's good to go. Now, everything else we've worked on has been the front suspension. Y'all remember when we got this car rolling, this car was just kind of thrown together. Just to get it rolling, we wanted to see it rolling, and it's been that way ever since. Nothing's been tight. Nothing has been finalized. So Pops and I come in yesterday on Saturday, and we went through this whole front end. All the tie rods are tight, ball joints are tight, all over the center link, the idler arm, pitman arm, everything's tight. Everything has a cotter pin in it. We had to change our upper control arm on the driver's side. A while back, y'all heard me talk about that in a video. That is an 8.5 inch, and this is an 8 inch. A lot of tracks around here don't really check it, but that's the control arm we took off. That was a 9 inch upper driver's side, and I took it off because the stock dimensions of the upper control arms are 8 and 8.5. And I was told that 9 inch would be illegal for sure, being ½ inch longer. Of course, we don't want our cars to be illegal, so we're just doing what we can to race anywhere we want to and be legal in every factory stock class we go to. Now, I know there's a lot of factory stock classes out there that still require factory firewall and floor pan. In North Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Alabama, Tennessee, everyone's pretty much going to these rules. That's pretty much where we'll be running. I doubt we venture off too far, so we'll fit every rule and be able to race. So everything's tight. We put in our DRP bearing spacers yesterday and got those in. So I still got to get a dust cap for this side. I had one dust cap, so I put it on that side. I got to get a dust cap and a seal for this side. But we got our DRP spacers in, and we like them. I love the DRP spacers. Of course, we are running DRP spacers and DRP low friction bearings on this car. So as y'all can tell, that's still spinning pretty good. That's why we like the bearing spacers. Which you got to find as much speed as you can when you're limited on stock suspension stuff. So We also have our DRP bearing spacers for our floater, for our rear hubs. So last night when I left, Pops had just tightened up the bolts in this lower control arm, and we put washers in there. Of course, we're putting grade 8 bolts and everything. So today we'll probably pull the hubs off, get our bearing spacers set for the rear hubs, and go ahead and tighten all that up and finalize all of that. And then that way all we have to do is put the gear in it and put the axles in it, and we'll be good to go. We don't have a gear yet. That's a big ticket item that we just haven't been able to get yet. The gear that was in that rear end is laying right here. That gear right there is a PEM 6.0 gear, the whole center section. It was a whole PEM rear end, ordered everything. And we took that gear out because it is a 6.0 gear. And the most tracks that we'll be racing with this car, we need a 633 to 650 gear. So we ended up selling that gear a while back to Levi Aldridge. He's another big factory stock racer, really fast car. I think Chad Thrash actually built his chassis, and Levi's been running it for a couple of years now. Really fast car. Jordan Phillips has been driving it. Dude is a heck of a driver. So Levi actually bought that 6.0 gear to put in his car to run some of the bigger, longer tracks in the area down in Mississippi. So, but anyway, that's where we're at. Pops and I are going to keep on working on this, but we'll work on that later this evening. We're going to take the time to work on this chassis here. That way we can get the rear clip finished. And when metal gets here this week, we can keep on going on this one. Also, I don't know if anybody noticed, there's the frame right there for number 6. It was dropped off yesterday. So, very thankful for these guys. Very thankful for everyone trusting us and giving us the opportunity to build them a car. I'm going to quit rambling. I'm already talked for 10 minutes, so I know a lot of people hate that. A lot of people like to hear the updates, so it's kind of a love-hate relationship. But anyway, that's where we're at, y'all. We've made a lot of progress. We may have some news on a motor. Pops and I have got to do some talking today, and we were offered a motor to run, and we consider him a friend now. So we're going to talk about it and see what decision we make, and it would help us out a lot to get the car to the track and get it shook down, and kind of make sure everything is good with the drivetrain as far as the transmission and everything. Of course, still got to get a gear, like I was saying, and we still got to have a drive shaft. So if we had a motor, though, we could work on getting it closer to race ready and the body on it, because it would be full weight, and that would help us. So even if we did get to make laps with it, it'd be cool. Even if we didn't, it would still help us a lot getting the car running. And we could pull that motor out, put our motor in once we get it from Twisted. Shout out to them. I know they've been super busy, and we appreciate what they're doing. So we're going to get busy, y'all. We got a factory stock to build and a factory stock to finish. So y'all hang out. All right, y'all. So what I was doing, get my frame cut on both sides, the same length. What we had done was rough cut it when we cut the rear clip off. So we just rough cut it. I always cut it at the back of the shock mount. So I measure from the holes here, 8 1/4, and I just cut it off. And then I take 1/8 plate and I cap the ends, and that's what we'll weld our 1.5 tubing to. And I've got my 083 1.5 over there. I'm about to cut my length that I need here. It's about 34, I think is what we cut them. So we cut them 34, and then we have one that goes between, and I'll cap the ends of the 34 pieces that come out, and just kind of clean it up a little bit. So yeah, that's where we're at. I didn't want it to be all time lapse, so I got that capped, and now I'm gonna cut pieces for the rear clip, and we'll get those tacked on there. Y'all hang out. All right, y'all. Well, there's the base of the rear clip. Y'all seen me and Pops. He decided to show up.
Hey.
I told him hired help was hard to find around here. What we done, we always tack these on the top on both sides because it's easy to level up and down that way, and I just put a little tack on them. So y'all don't make fun of our leveling tool here, but we have found that when we use this stool with our jack stands one notch up, this stool is perfect, and this rear clip is level, side to side and front to back. So we tack those on, and we just eyeball them straight with the frame rail on both sides, and then we measure between up there. That way that end, is where it needs to be. And then I cut a bar and notch it to go back here that length. So we tack it to one side, scoot it over and tack it to the other side. Y'all seen Pops, he grabbed a square, threw it in there, and we squared it up. And then I put a little more weld on the corners of these bars here, and then that way it'll hold it square. And we'll double check it before we put our top bars on. But everything's level. The car's sitting level, the rear clip's level, front to back on these and side to side. So now we're gonna get our 90-degree template we've got, 1.5 inches, sit it up right here, and we've got a mark on it where we start our bend, and we'll measure from that bar there to the start of that bend, and that's how much material we need. And we'll get those bent, get those tacked on, and we'll pick up when we get them bent. It's gonna take us a little bit to change our die and to get our tube bent. So y'all hang out. We're gonna do all that, and we'll come back when we get ready to tack them on. All right, y'all. Pops and I went ahead and threw the bars on there, got them welded on. They're tacked on. There's some welds on there just to keep it level and keep it square. So, but there's the rear clip. That's pretty much the basics of it. All we do is we come in and put in uprights in here for a little bracing. We don't do anything back here. We used to X-brace underneath this rear clip, but we quit doing that because of the crash factor. If this car backs into the wall or gets hit hard enough, it'll bend this rear clip and not bend up there. So we will weld 1.75 inches out here against that, and that'll be for bumper mounts. And of course we do put tabs on here for T-bar, for the rear bumper cover or rear decking, whatever you want to call it. However direction you go, a lot of them just put sheet metal back here. So I like a bumper cover. I think it looks more like a factory stock. So yep, that's pretty much it. We've got 26.75 inches between this bar and that bar. Our fuel cell is 24.25. So that gives us a couple of inches this way, and then we'll build a fuel cell cage that clamps onto this 1.5 inches and clamps onto that 1.5 inches, and they'll be able to move the fuel cell side to side a little bit to help with ballast. So that's a rear clip build. Throw a couple of those uprights in there, and that'll be completely done. So we can move on. Pretty much we're waiting now on floor pan and firewall material, so we can get that in, so we can get our pedal mount in, steering mount, and then once we get all that in, like I said before, We'll put our door bars and all last. That way we can get in and out working on it easy. And then we'll do windshield bars last with the door bars. And of course, putting tabs on everything and getting it fully welded out.
This is that old man fat boy
entrance. So that's where we're at, y'all. We don't like much. Getting this bad boy knocked out right here. So we can't thank y'all enough for watching. Can't thank y'all enough for subscribing. There was a lot of talking at the first of this video and updating y'all on everything. And Pops and I are probably going to end this video off. We got the rear clip built, so we may go ahead and put in a few more bars. We've got to put 1.25 inches in here to complete our X. And then we've got more 1.25 inches that we put from the frame to the rear hoop. And we may do all that today and get all that knocked out before we get too many bars in there where we can't get in there and do it. So, but we do have a lot more bars to put in this thing. So there'll be a couple of more videos on this chassis here. And we'll get it knocked out. And then we'll get started on number 6 laying out there I showed y'all. And we've got number 6, and then we've got number 7 already on the books. And then after that, we've got 2 or 3 guys that are wanting to send down payment. So once we start number 6, then we'll probably start taking down payments on the next 2 or 3. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and get covered up to where we can't catch up. So usually 2 or 3 we'll take down payments for and get those cars in line, and then we'll build those cars and then do 2 or 3 more. So, but for now, we're gonna call it a video. That's where Hound Dog chassis number 5 sits, and Hound Dog chassis number 1 is over here getting some love. So we'll probably work on this thing again today and get our rear hubs finished up, get our rear bolts finished up. Like I said, Pops was changing those yesterday. And we'll get our bearing spacers in those rear hubs. And then we'll start putting brakes on it. We've got 2 calipers and a set of brake pads, but we don't have the spacers for the metric calipers on an 810 rotor. Most people don't run them, but we like to run them. It makes the pedals soft when you run an 810 rotor, especially on those rear rotors. When you run a thin 810 rotor and then you put a metric caliper on there, you have a gap between your pads and the rotor. So when you push the pedal, you have a lot of pedal before you even grab the brakes. So they make those spacers that go in the caliper. It just snaps in the piston. It takes that space up. So when you touch the brake, I mean, your brakes are there. So we like to run them. I like to have a real good stiff pedal. That way I'm not trying to push it to the floorboard. So, well, that's going to be it for this video. Can't thank y'all enough for hanging out with us. Thank y'all for subscribing. And until next time.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thank y'all very much for all the kind words and all the stuff that y'all are helping us with. Until next time, God bless you.
See y'all.